Hello, we are going to build a React.js project today for searching Pokemon cards using the Pokemon API. So let's begin. I have created an empty React project here. Let's go to app.js and start building. So we are going to use this Pokemon API at pokeapi.co. This is the documentation and this is the endpoint we will be using. So what I want is first, here I want an input box. The user will enter the name of the Pokemon and a button to search. And when the user clicks the button, the API is called and the details of the Pokemon are displayed in a card. So let's put an input box on the screen first. Type text. Now we need to create a state variable to control this input box. We'll call it query. And we'll import useState hook. The initial value will be empty. The import looks like this. Now we'll hook our input box to this state variable. And then on change, we'll get the event and set query to event.target.value. Let's check it out. And now our input box is a control input. Now we need a button. We'll call it search. And then on click, it should call a function called search Pokemon. Right. So now we need to define the search Pokemon function. Let's make it an arrow function. Now this function should do two things. One, call API to get details. And two, save details to state. Okay. So first let's grab the API endpoint that we are going to call, this one. Now let's begin. Response equals await. So we'll use async await to call the API. So let's make this function an async function using the async keyword. Then we'll call the fetch function and pass the API endpoint to the function. We'll replace the Pokemon name with the query that the user types in. Then we'll get the data by awaiting on res.json. And then we'll simply log uh, the data. And then we'll save data to a state variable called Pokemon, right? And now we need to actually define that variable. So let's go here and define it. And initially Pokemon will be an empty object, right? Now let's wrap this entire thing in a try catch block for exception handling. In the catch block, we'll just log the error to the console. And let's bring the code in the try block. Now let's also create a loading state variable to show the loading screen. This will be false initially. And as soon as this function is called, we set the loading to true. And then after this function is run, is completed, doesn't matter it ends up successfully or in error, we'll set the loading to false in the finally block. So the finally block runs irrespective of the result of the promise of the try catch block, right? Now, on click, search Pokemon is being called. It's being saved to state. Let's uh, show the loading indicator here. Oops. This should be a paragraph. Okay. And when Pokemon is set, we'll check for the name key and we'll just display the entire thing. Okay. Oh, we are already in that. So now let's test this out. Let's search for Pikachu. And as you can see, our API call was successful and the result was logged here as well in the console. So now the next step would be to tidy this up and display it in a nice card UI. So the details will display are one Pokemon name, second the Pokemon image, third would be some details like weight and height. Then we'll display the Pokemon type, the Pokemon stats and abilities. So I'll get rid of this first of all, and I'll make it into a div, right? And here we will display an H3 that gives us the Pokemon name here. And we'll actually make this capitalized. So to do that, we'll use the text transform CSS property and set it to capitalize. Now we'll try and grab the image of the Pokemon. Now before we do that, let's set up a UI library called Evergreen Component Library. You can install it with npm or yarn like this. I have already installed it, so I'll skip that. Now let's go to components, right? And first of all, let's grab the text input component. Just copy this one and paste it here. And then auto import the text input. This is how the import would look like. Now we'll just go here, copy our code and replace it with this. And then we'll get rid of the original input box. And this is how it looks, much better. We need to grab the button component next. So we'll go to the components in Evergreen, go to button, and grab the primary button component. Let's auto import button. This is how it should look. We'll call it search. And on click, we'll call this. We'll remove the margin. And if you notice, then This button component out of the box comes with a loading indicator. We just need to set the isLoading attribute. We'll set it to loading. We'll also set the disable attribute to loading, and then we'll get rid of our button. And this is how it looks. Let's test it out. Yeah, it's quite fast, so it's easy to miss, but it's working. Now, next we'll grab an avatar component to display the image. Here is the avatar. We'll grab the one with image. So in case the image fails, the initials like this are displayed. If the image is present, the image is displayed. Okay. We'll put the avatar here, auto import it. The import comes here. And then we'll update the source. Right? We'll update the source. So to do that, we need to access the stripes key, right? And of the stripes object, we'll have something called the front default key. Let's increase the size to 150. So it's a bit bigger. Save. And now let's check it out. Yeah, this is how it looks. So if we go to the console and we see we have the sprites object, and in that we have front default, right? So we should have Pokemon.stripes.front default. And for the name, we'll change that to Pokemon.name. It's not working. Let's see. Pokemon sprites. Okay, sorry. It's sprites, not stripes. Now it's working. Next, we'll display the type of the Pokemon. Now, as you can see, the types are actually an array. And within that array, we have a key called type and name, which gives us each type. Okay, so first of all, let's create a div. Then we'll map over the Pokemon.types array, right? And we'll get each type and the index. So now what the type object will have a key of type. So what we can do is we can directly destructure this object to the type key, right? And then this should display something. And that something is a badge. So we need to grab this badge component. Now these badges come in different colors. So we can try and make these colors based on the type. For example, grass type Pokemon gets green, water type gets blue, fire type red, uh, normal type gets neutral, fighting type gets orange, flying type gets yellow, ghost and poison dark type gets purple, and everything else gets neutral if there are any, right? So we'll grab a badge, paste it here. We can auto import badge, which would look like this. And what's the mistake here? So we have Pokemon.types.map. Uh, okay, this and this and this. Cool. So now we have the type. Let's just display the type dot name, and here we have our types. Now let's try and map these types with their respective colors, right? So at the top, let's define a types object. Now in this object, we'll map, let's say, fire to red. Now why these specific keys? Because the API gives us fire as a type and the badge should have the color as red. So we'll go for these colors and the types that the API gives. So fire, then water should be blue, right? Grass should be green. Electric should be yellow. Let's make ghost to be purple. We'll make dark type to be also purple and poison type to be also purple, right? We'll make fight type, or fight is neutral anyway and the default is neutral, so we can skip that. Sorry, we'll make normal type neutral. Fight type can be orange. Flying type can also be orange. And everything else will be neutral, so which includes normal type as well, right? And rock, uh, stone, everything will come here. Steel type, yeah. So next what we need to do is we need to map over the color here. So we'll do types of type dot name and check it out. Fire is red, flying is orange. Works. Now before moving forward, let's try and center this. Okay. So we'll give it some style. This entire card. First of all, let's try and add a box shadow. Which one looks good? Oh, I guess yeah, I'll grab this one. Okay, and we'll give a box shadow. Let's copy this value here. Yeah. So now our card has a box shadow. Let's give it a width of 40%. Let's set it to margin of 0 auto. Or for the top and bottom margin, we'll do 10 px or maybe 5 vh. Okay. Then let's also give it a padding. Cool. Let's make everything center. Yeah, this looks much better. Guess what? We can try and make everything on our app. Uh, yeah, and as well give it some margin top. Cool. So now we have some details listed here. Next, what we can do is we can display the height and weight, right? Let's create another div. Uh, we'll access the Pokemon.weight in kg, and then we'll do the height in feet. Looks good. We'll give it some margin top, right? We'll make these bold. Okay. And let's try to wrap these in a span. Ooh. And we'll give this span a margin right. Oops. So we need to do it in a style. Give it a margin right. Yeah, much better. Next thing we can list down is are the abilities of the Pokemon. So to do that, we can map over the abilities. So let's copy this div, paste it here, and we'll replace types with abilities and type with ability. And then here, just make it neutral. And we have the abilities listed. We can actually give it a title. Okay. And finally, we can list down the stats as well. So let's replace this with stats and this with stats as well. Now, if you come here and you notice that stats actually is an array and each object has two keys, base stat and stat that we are interested in. And stat has the name. So we'll destructure to stat and base stat, right? So stat will put here stat.name and we'll put the base stat as the score for the stat. So these are our stats and we need to set a key for this. The key can be just stat.name because those are unique, right? Copy. We can do the same for this as well. Ability.name, those are unique as well. We can do the same for uh, types as well. Type.name, types would be unique, right? So we have listed the stats. We can try and get these stats, the stat name outside of the badge. So what is it here? We have a span. Span should be here. Right. Now we can capitalize the start name with text transform, or we can make it, yeah, let's just keep it as span. Maybe text transform doesn't work on. Yeah, yeah, let's get rid of this then. If it doesn't work, there's no point. So this looks much nice. Let's increase the padding for the card a bit. Right. So here we have a Pokemon search app. Let's try and search some other Pokemon. Let's say Mark, right? Let's try and do Pikachu. Yep. And let's try and do Squirtle, Bulbasaur. Yep. So now as a homework, what you can do is you can try listing out some of the properties of the Pokemon as well. So you can try to list down the base experience, which would be the EXP somewhere on the right hand side in the corner. And you can try and, yeah, you can try and list the items that the Pokemon is holding as well. Yeah. So that's a homework for you. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more tutorials. The entire source code for this project would be uploaded to GitHub, and the link would be available in the description. Thank you.